Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Story Archives. I'm your host, Mario, alongside
Zachary. Welcome.
You're here for a specific reason. If you clicked on this show, then you know that we are about to do let's call it a Let's Watch, on one of my personal favorite shows, Peaky Blinders. Zach.
Yeah.
We haven't been back on Story Archives since we did our run through on Lupin.
Yeah.
And now really the goal is to get through 5 seasons of Peaky, which we've watched.
Mm-hmm.
We've watched. I will say up front, we've watched. This is not a fresh watch for us. But we're doing a recap run through for all you diehards out there. Going through all the first 5 seasons, right? There's 5 seasons so far.
There's
and we're going to get
seasons,
and we're going to get the 6th season. I'm guessing January of 2022. If I had to take a guess based off of history here, I think it would launch sometime around then. I hope I'm wrong because we got to get through 30 episodes in the next month and a half. So, and at our cadence of what we do, mixing and matching here, throwing these episodes 2 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week if we can. It'll be a ride and a fun ride because I watched this first episode today and so many things popped out at me on this rewatching of the series that I'm gonna have a blast on it. I'm appreciating characters more than I did before. I'm seeing things in the storyline that I got lost as you get lost in the shuffle of those Birmingham accents. I'm ready for this. You ready?
Oh, I'm so excited. This is also one of my favorites at the moment. It's a very good season. I do remember the very first time I was watching this, I thought the first few episodes were kind of boring, honestly. But on the rewatch, I didn't find them boring at all. I
think it's like anything. It's like you got when you're focused in, and it's one of those things where I don't know. I'm into the gritty crime dramas, so the moment you give me that anti-hero type character, as long as that hits right, I'm in there. So to recap, to actually say what we're starting with, we're starting on season 1, episode 1. This is the pilot of Peaky Blinders. So you're here with us from the jump, and you can expect us to go through probably a season every 3 weeks or 2 weeks if we can swing it. 3 weeks for sure. 2 weeks if we're being ambitious. So you'll the rest of the year we're hamming it up with Peaky Blinders. We're getting peaky with the peakiest crew in all of Birmingham. So this is probably my this is definitely my 3rd time I think going through the series because I love this show. So I've watched it before. Again, also in anticipation of previous seasons. And this time I was just thinking to myself, this is the first time I've had to do a show about it. So what kind of other elements can we bring in? And so I did a little bit of historical research on exactly what the show's based on because I wanted to know, okay, how did the show get made? Why was it made? Is it based on a true story? And how much is fact? How much is fiction? Because it's less fact and more fiction based on fact and the events of what was happening in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
So really the story revolves around a street gang in this show called the Peaky Blinders, based in Birmingham, England. And from what I saw in research, thanks to the almighty Wikipedia, these street gangs operated from the end of the 19th century to the early 1900s. It grew out of economic deprivations of working class Britain, composed largely of young men of lower to middle classes. They derived social power from robbery, violence, racketeering, illegal bookmaking, and the control of gambling. Members of this gang wore a signature outfit that included tailor jackets, lapel overcoats, button waistcoats, silk scarves, bell-bottom trousers, leather boots, and peaked flat caps, Peaky Blinders. So what you're getting here is a gang that has humble beginnings in a post-World War I England, where you have these young vets coming back from the war who've seen atrocities, who've committed atrocities in defense of good. And they're here and back. And you have an outlaw Robin Hood / he kind of has his own moral code character in Tommy Shelby, who is trying to take a gang that is known for what I just said, from the bookmaking and gambling and robbery mainly, and violence, because they have those, those sharp blades on their caps.
Yeah.
And he has an opportunity here to ascend them to new heights. He's a man of ambition, and as coming back as a survivor from the war, you see that he lives life with that kind of edge, that you got to risk it to go far. So that's how we open up this series, with that primer. Like Zach, any closing words before we start this episode?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of gave it away, but I was gonna bring up why they're called the Peaky Blinders. So the reason why they're actually called the Peaky Blinders is those peaked caps that you're talking about. They would actually sew razor blades into the peak of the cap so that they could rip the hat off and just, well, effectively blind people just by slapping them across the face with it. So very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like such a small detail to base a whole name off of, but the show is as much style as it is substance. It's exactly what that description I read said. It's they were known. It's weird for a gang at that time to like be in luxury menswear and their women are wearing fur coats and beautiful gowns and stuff like that, but they like to live the high life. And as you see Peaky Blinders, it's a stylish show. It takes a very out of era look. But let's get into the episode recap. Let's do this thing.
For sure.
All right. Episode 1, the pilot opens in this Chinatown type area. You got this man frantically running through the market and with an errand that he's running. And it's in this moment that we cut. It cuts to black and we get our first introduction to the man on the horse himself, Tommy Shelby.
I will say, I think the funniest part of this was, I think the first line of this entire show was, "Do your tits still have milk?"
yeah. Your tits have, and it's like a 12-year-old too. It's like a little kid, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But it sets the tone of like
it does.
Of what kind of time this was in England in that sense, right? But you immediately right off the bat, you see Tommy riding in on this horse. The street's clear. The women and children are running every direction. He's riding on a horse on these unpaved streets, so you see the poverty of this area.
It's really dirty. It's like extremely dirty.
Yeah. And you can get the sense the way people react to this to like this request and him coming down, that this has happened before in some sense. Right?
Yeah.
But you have Tommy on the horse right here, and he's doing the powder trick to seemingly put some sort of, well, they don't know it's the powder trick, but we know it's the powder trick. They're doing some sort of voodoo to the horse. As you see that little kid behind the wood crates say he's doing a magic trick so the horse wins the race.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
I thought, the first time I saw this, I don't know why I thought it, but I thought they were like, gonna kill the horse somehow, like with anthrax or something. I'm like, what's going on here? I don't know. I'm just, I see this red powder being blown into its face. And
I will say I got to backtrack here. One of the reasons I got into the show was because Cillian Murphy is one of my favorite actors, and even before Peaky, he was one of my favorite actors. And when I saw him in the show, I was like, this was before big time actors were doing TV shows for the most part. And I saw him on there, I was like, shit, I gotta watch that. It's gotta be incredible. It's about gangs in early London, but
Birmingham, England, 1919.
Yeah. That part where after they do the trick, you kind of get this sense like, okay, this is a guy who, although he just committed like this trick with the horse and he's gonna race it, it seems like he's cheating, right?
Yeah.
He goes by his own code, but at the same time, while people are running from him, he gives them a little tip. He says, hey, go put a bet on the horse, So he's giving people hope. He's doing some sort of like Robin Hood thing. And,
I don't know if I'd call it a Robin Hood thing, but he's doing something to get some money somewhere.
Yeah. As we see with Tommy, he has his agenda always. So I won't say he's like a gallant knight for the people.
Yeah.
He's very much for him and his family for the most part.
Always.
But I love this next scene though, when you cut and you get the Peaky Blinders title, because one thing I didn't notice on watching it for the first time was 1918. I didn't take that into. I think it was 1919. Okay.
Yeah, 1919.
I didn't take into account that World War I ended in November of 1918.
Yeah.
So like if you're a historian, you should know like, okay, that year is significant. Like there's going to be some sort of impact. This is not a normal world. We just emerged from a world war in the modern era. So it's going to be something crazy.
There's a lot of people scarred.
Yeah, and I love the next scene where you have the titles rolling, the credits rolling in the beginning, and you see Tommy rolling through, just riding on the streets of an industrial era England, which at this time is like booming technology wise. Yeah. But he's the man on the horse, so he's kind of like, he's riding through the streets like a king among his people, and you get like this notion that he runs the place. Even the cops are tipping their caps to him.
Yeah.
You know, but he seems out of place because he's riding on a horseback through this town while everyone's walking, or, you know, I didn't see many cars in the situation, but it just seems like somebody who walks to the beat of his own drum, and he has his own way of doing things. Like, he's not meant for this time. He operates in a different playbook altogether.
Yeah.
You know,
all the time.
What were your thoughts? Yeah.
I mean, I just loved the grit, the dirty look, the cloudy sets that they had. I thought it was great. I didn't you know, think of him on the horse in that manner. I don't know. I like
you're talking
and stuff like this, but it was really cool.
You're talking, these are rewatch details. I could be wrong, but it's just my impression. And I love when I'm watching a show. All right. So one of the things about television shows and movies in general, it's very important how you introduce your main character, your protagonist, and your villains for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, they have to be compelling. If you don't get people in that first scene, if you don't set the stage for it, you might lose an audience immediately. And it is a make or break thing. So the way they introduce Tommy is, you know, to me, an iconic part.
Yeah, they don't make you like hate him, but you sure are curious.
Yeah. You get in the next scene, because you see in the first scene he's by himself doing his own business, but in the next scene you get Tommy confronting Finn. So you get different elements here of the family, right?
Yeah.
You get him being a big brother to Finn, trying to keep him out of trouble while Finn's trying to desperately put out a cigarette. He's like 5 years old smoking cigarettes.
He looks like he's 5 at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Finn is one of my issues with the series.
Yeah.
And not because I don't like Finn, but because of those age jumps. Like, Finn goes from like that little kid to, like, I don't know if it's season 2 or 3 that Finn turns into like a grown ass man. And you're like, but Tommy looks the same. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's Finn?
Yeah, that's Finn. When Finn is like later on, when he's a teenager, I was like, they did that time jump.
I didn't realize
they look the same. You know what show does that too? Is Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
Vikings, there's a character named Bjorn who he's like he's a little kid. Yeah, of course his name's Bjorn. And little kid, and then they just do a time jump like from one moment to the next, and he's a grown-ass man. Just a grown-ass man. I'm like, but the years didn't add up to me. It was like 5 years later. I'm like, what is he, 13 now? Like, what is this? What are they feeding these 13-year-olds in old Viking land here? But anyways, in this scene, you get an introduction to all of the Shelby brothers here. You get introduced to Finn first, probably the least important for the first few seasons.
Yeah.
And then you get introduced to John Boy and the supposed leader of the pack, Arthur Shelby, but a fan favorite Arthur Shelby. Who the hell doesn't love Arthur Shelby?
You gotta love him.
Yeah, I mean, look, this show is stylish, man.
Yeah.
This show is stylish. I don't know a single person who, after watching this show, didn't get this haircut.
Oh, I know.
and you know Cillian Murphy hates the haircut, right?
He does. I heard him bashing it in some interviews. Because my family hates it whenever I have to get my haircut like this. Just what it was.
Yeah, he should chill, because he's never gotten as much publicity without that haircut.
Yeah,
his haircut, like in Inception. Remember him in Inception with that little middle part?
I remember.
Like that's a lame ass haircut. Like, this is they made this haircut cool. Right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, I think they did. It was already a thing, but I think
not at the level of the peak,
a bit.
Yeah.
Like they definitely put some energy into it.
It's
remember
funny
him. You know, the first thing I remember him from though was Scarecrow from Batman with Christian Bale.
He was actually
still much better.
He was actually in a movie called Red Eye, way back in the day. I was a youngin. Yeah, that was like a Friday night date movie. That was I was like a middle school movie. He was like this psycho guy trying to kill this girl with like a. I just remember one scene where the girl stabs him with like a stiletto heel in the thigh. I'm like, damn, she's got some force to drive that through his thigh like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, in this scene, you get a look at behind the scenes. You see the gambling racket behind a curtain double door.
Yeah.
Immediately, I thought, as a production guy myself, I was like, they probably built this set, I'm assuming, because to find that perfect double door like in a building that's just great. Like, right? The locations are amazing.
I know.
Yeah, very, very cool. So you get a scene here where Tommy's running through the place. Bets are coming in like crazy for Monaghan Boy, the horse that he told everybody to bet on, but he also told them not to tell anybody. So my Robin Hood theory out there, I had to literally put a line through it in my notes because at that point you realize that he told everybody so that they would go tell other people.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
And that they would fall for the con here. But
everybody's gonna tell people when they think something's gonna win.
Yeah.
Some easy money.
Know. Yeah.
I like that stiff drink Arthur's pouring.
Yeah, what is he drinking there? Is he drinking rum? Is he drinking whiskey?
I want to say he's drinking whiskey based on the color of it, but I don't know. I mean,
well, a little later in this episode, Tommy gets him a bottle of rum, which makes me think that Arthur's maybe more of a rum guy.
Yeah.
And Tommy's more of the whiskey guy.
I could see that.
Or scotch. But he's taking issue with Tommy here, talking about he found out about the powder trick.
Yeah.
And Arthur's really just concerned about the pressure coming in from all sides, from Billy Kimber, from the different gangs in London that he has to put up with. And he doesn't see the big picture that Tommy has, because Tommy's kind of like he's a lone wolf. He doesn't tell people his plans,
Mm-hmm.
He really shoves it in people's faces. But you also get a look here into the dynamic of the gang, right? Tommy makes a comment saying, hey, look, I'm in charge of drumming up new money. So they obviously ran into some issues, and Tommy decided to take more of a lead in that position, which Arthur seems to have agreed to. But Arthur, immediately you see the dynamics of the brothers. You got Tommy is the strategic thinker.
Yeah.
And you got Arthur, who's kind of the hothead, rough around the edges one.
That's for sure.
The muscle, right? And then John is just the typical, he's kind of like that third wheel of sorts, right? He's a little mix of both. More like Arthur, in my opinion, but we really don't get a look at John Boy until I call him John Boy always. Just John, whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't really get a good look into him. I'd say Arthur and Tommy are the focus of the Arthur, Tommy, and Paulie are the focus of the family.
Paulie, who we haven't been introduced to yet, but yes, I do definitely agree with that. Which
this is the first time I've watched the show since she's passed away. The actress that passed away.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
so
sucks.
it's when you watch it and you see her for the first time, it's like it hits you, and she is definitely. She carries so many elements of this show. She's just so talented.
Yeah.
The next scene you get introduced to Sam Neill, who plays Inspector Campbell. And Sam Neill goes back to the Jurassic Park days. So when you see him, when you're watching Peaky for the first time, as I did years ago, and you see him, you're like, all right, this show, the cast is legit. This is a legit cast.
I've been wondering what I knew him from. And this is the one time I've never looked it up.
You never knew that he was from Jurassic Park 1?
Now that you mentioned
2 and 3?
Now that you mentioned Jurassic Park, I can picture him right away. But I don't know. I just never put that together. He looks like such a prick in this, though. The chief inspector.
But he does such a good job, right?
He does. He really does.
But we see him on the train here, and he has his little notebooks that he's investigating munitions robbery.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sent on assignment from Belfast by the British higher ups to conduct this investigation.
Yeah.
And you see him going through the pictures, and you see a picture of Tommy, and it indicates that he had a distinguished honors as a military hero.
Mm-hmm.
So little by little, the pilot does a really good job of showing you the characters, showing the different elements of the characters, and also showing you that they're not just street thugs.
Mm-hmm.
These are guys who went and fought for the crown. They fought for the British Royal Army, right? I think that's what it's called over there. And they served, and Tommy served admirably. So these are guys who have given and sacrificed for the country. So these are not just ordinary men.
No, they've been through some stuff.
Yeah. And that goes for everybody in the show. Even the next character I'm about to bring up here who gets introduced, because the pilots is the introductions episode, right?
Of course.
Especially on a show like this. We get introduced to Freddie Thorne, who you always forget about Freddie.
I do. I forgot his name. Even after I saw him.
Let's not give up too much. Don't give up too much. I know we've seen, but let's not talk too much here.
Yeah.
When I saw him, I was like, oh damn. But you got he is the resident communist of the show. The intro scene for Freddie is a guy who's leading a group of men to form a labor strike or something at this factory.
Mm-hmm.
So they even have him as a communist agitator, Bolshevik. I don't know who's doing the intel, but they did a great job in this show.
Oh,
I'm always marveling in these old shows how they just make it seem so easy to get intel on people.
Mm-hmm.
But Inspector Campbell's a weird guy himself,
Oh, he is.
He's got his own quirks.
once you get to meet to know him a little bit more, that's for sure.
Yeah. You know, it's at this point when Tommy in the next scene goes to the garrison, and you see like this is the local watering hole.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't mention it in my notes before this, but it's here with the slow motion shots and the music.
Yeah.
That you realize like it just kind of it's more pronounced that Peaky Blinders is a show that's it uses out of era techniques, you know, like slow motion shots and rock and roll, like
I was gonna say the music for sure. Like even the what is it? Would you call it a theme song? I guess the Red Right Hand from Nick Cave. Yeah, it's a great song. But
well, you know, even those shots where they're just walking as a group, it's just complete style shots, you know, and but they don't do it to comedic effect. And at first, like when I first got into the show, I was like, I
was a little iffy about that myself.
But it grows on you by like the second or third episode. You're like, all right, I'm in. You get this encounter here at the garrison between Freddy and Tommy, which is it shows that they used to be like you can kind of see like with Tommy, it's very hard to find an equal, right?
Yeah.
And Freddy seems to be that equal in some sense in his own right, because he calls him out on all of his BS, right? And here in this scene is actually one of the ones where I picked up on little details that I didn't pick up on upon first and second watches of this show.
Like what?
Right? Well, specifically, Freddy mentioned something about how he took a bullet for Tommy. I had forgotten about that, but he mentioned something else. He says, you know, there's nights where I hear about the cuttings and beatings.
Yeah.
There it is. He says it right here. Here he's actually baiting Tommy about the munitions robbery.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get more information because he has a connection that says that there's somebody coming in from Belfast to investigate, and that his name is on the list next to Tommy's.
Yeah. So
he's on to Tommy, that Tommy is actually behind the munitions robbery here. And that's kind of like where you get the notion that he's just as savvy as Tom is, right?
Yeah. He is pretty clever.
Yeah. But he makes a comment where he says, there's nights where I hear about the beatings and the cuttings that I wish I didn't take that bullet for you.
Yeah.
And because of the little historical background that I looked up, you know, I learned that there was a lot of violence in that time, but I never really kind of put two and two together. Because whenever you see these shows, whether it's Peaky Blinders or Sopranos or any show that's related to, you know, gangs and organized crime and stuff like that, you never see like the beloved central character in the dirty, grimy stuff that happens probably behind the scenes, right? So, you know, the Peaky Blinders are probably like beating up innocent people, like robbing innocent people. And like if you showed that on the screen, you would not like the character as much, but maybe you still would.
I don't know. Because I don't think you would.
Are you sure? Because I know Inspector Campbell is unlikable in many ways, but even from the jump, you're not rooting for him. I don't know if it's just evil human nature, but even Breaking Bad, let's use Breaking Bad as an example.
Yeah.
You never once root against Walt.
No.
And Walt does some horrific things.
He does.
In the show. Like, I don't know if it was just me, but I never rooted against Walt. I was always like rationalizing everything. Yeah.
Well, if I was going to die from cancer, I'd be making some meth too.
So anyways, just picking up on some different cues there from Freddy.
Yeah.
You just get a notion that these are guys who've been beat up by the war. These were maybe not decent men, but definitely more decent men before the war, and that they came back transformed.
Yeah.
And even Tommy kind of alludes to it, like that he wishes sometimes that he did take the bullet.
Yeah.
This whole scene kind of just accentuates it, because you got Danny Wisbang busting through the doors and having a PTSD what do you call that, an episode.
Yeah. He's just freaking out, man.
Yeah. But you get like different glimpses of the characters. You get Tommy, who's, you know, being the peacemaker here. You know, he's kind of like a bit of he's the leader of the pack. You know, he does some grimy stuff, but he's still also the guy who's getting Danny Wisbang under control here.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So you just see a world that is, and back then there's no mental health. There's none of that stuff. Nobody even knows what no one knows what PTSD is. You got Tommy later in this episode smoking. Yeah, he's smoking, brown opium.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was. I'm like, is that like, I don't know, crack?
Yeah, he's smoking opium
or something. I have no idea.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you got to be careful with the quiet ones. Everybody's drinking, and Tommy's just going back to his room like, all right, y'all, I'm going to smoke opium.
Yeah, right.
His pipe. Yeah, no, Tommy's into the hard drugs, man. He's into the hard drugs.
He is.
But they don't go into the background of why he has to do what he has to do. But I can't hold it against him because you just you see what happened to them in France.
I think we know enough. I mean, I knew this was right after the war, close to, the war, but I didn't realize like this is like months after. This is barely even a year after. So like, this is fresh for everybody.
Yeah. I love the next scene. You get Paulie introduced to John Boy, which is like a very when you look back on this after 5 seasons and the role that Paulie played, it makes you wonder, was Paulie always going to play a huge role? Because they bring her in so nonchalantly,
Yeah.
Here you go.
I thought they introduced her so great though. Like I love the introduction.
I love it. It's just out of nowhere. No more.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
It's quickly just a gun right straight to the head of her nephew.
Yeah,
I think nephew, right?
I think so. Well, I don't know. I like. Are they actually related, or is it just like their family?
No, they're related. Yeah. And you can tell she's the toughest one of the bunch. If they're tough, she's tougher than all of them. She makes John Boy look like a wuss here. It's just typical, it's like I don't know. I don't know if you got like a tough grandma, but I got like a tough grandma, and she's probably tougher than everybody in our family. Like she'll just hit you. She won't hit you, but she's just tough. She can hang with the toughest of them. And she's like an Aunt Polly. Whenever I see the Aunt Polly character, I'm always kind of reminded of my own grandma in some ways. And she says a line here that I love. She goes, "I know having 4 kids without a woman is hard, but my boot's harder." I'm like, yeah, that is such a Polly line. She must have been a really fun character to write for.
I bet.
Yeah.
I remember her from Harry Potter.
That's right. She plays Draco's mother.
Yeah, Malfoy's mom.
All right.
Yep.
But that was after this. I think that was after this.
No, Harry Potter overlapping. Ongoing.
Yeah, but she wasn't always in Harry Potter. They introduced her maybe in the.
Yeah, you're right. It was in the latter.
I think they introduced her in the sixth film.
Yeah,
they introduced her. You get a family council meeting here with that Arthur adjourned, and you still get that same notion of like, okay, Arthur's the leader in name only because. First and foremost, if I was Arthur, I'd have to slap up Tommy a little bit for the disrespect.
Every time, yeah.
Just the disrespect. Like I understand, like you're smarter than me, but you don't gotta flaunt it. And Tommy he flaunts it. He's disrespectful. So,
he reminds me of like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like a brother that you have that's just like, I don't know, not so great. So you need to let him feel like he's in charge or something. Like he seems like that person that just needs to think he's in charge.
Yeah, it's like you haven't watched Sopranos, but in Sopranos, Tony lets his uncle be in charge, but everyone knows he's not in charge. But the uncle needs to feel like he's in charge. But it's a little bit deeper than that here in Peaky, where you have Tommy is also protecting everybody by not telling them about the munitions robbery.
It's true.
Because it's the most risky thing they've ever done. Yeah, here you go. John Boy is the foolish one. He's kind of like, Finn. When Finn grows up, he is like John Boy. Just foolish. Always saying some foolish shit when everyone else is talking serious.
He thinks he's invincible.
Yeah, cut him a smile from the ear. Yeah.
I like Tommy's line earlier. I think so you don't have to, Arthur.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably like fantasize about saying that to like clients or the former bosses and stuff like that.
No, there's some Mad Men line. Right?
I think, Arthur. That's what I do.
I'm not here to tell you about Jesus. He either lives in your heart or he doesn't.
Oh yeah, I love the line where Paulie goes. This was This was a woman's business while you boys were away at war. What's changed? And Tommy just goes, we came back.
Yeah.
That's such a good line.
It is.
Oh, man. Doesn't that it's women's business? This whole bloody enterprise is women's business.
We came back.
What's such a good line? Such a good line. Because later on in the show, you find out that Tommy wasn't this grizzled guy before he left to the war. So Jeremiah is a consistent one in this series, huh? Jeremiah is the traveling evangelist who's part-time evangelist, part-time gang member with the Peaky Blinders. I don't know how he splits those hairs, but you know, you get a scene here, which, all right, this was actually a key scene where Inspector Campbell's rolling through the town in the car, right? All right, and I had this feeling watching this where he's just as out of place as Tommy is. Yeah. You know, he's in a car hiding from everybody, witnessing the poverty and violence with his own eyes. And Tommy, in some ways, is more connected to it, you know? Yeah. He's riding through it on a horse. He's not protected. He's riding through on his own accord. You know, Inspector Campbell's coming in there in the most modern of inventions, right? And this is what I'm talking about. Like you're seeing in the show, you've got people like having sex in the streets, and there's crap everywhere. And, there's little kids running. It's dirty, very dirty. And if you had Tommy directly involved with that stuff, you probably wouldn't have as much of a like for him. It's true. But there's just little details that are so good, man. Like Tommy meets Paulie the next scene at the church, and he has to confess something, but he's not confessing to God. He's confessing to Paulie. Yeah, you know. It's like one of those. It's a good, just the location's a good choice. It is. It really is. She gives my favorite line, maybe in all of the first season. In this scene, really, where Tommy's confessing to her because she knows something's up. She's smart like him, so she knows that he's lying about something, and she gives him a line where she goes at the end when he confesses, like, hey, we didn't steal the munitions drop, because this is the scene where Tommy says, we didn't steal the munitions. We actually stole the wrong crate. And when we opened it up, it was all these guns. It wasn't motorcycles. It was it wasn't motorcycles. How do you miss that up? With the weight?
I literally wrote that down. You know, how do you confuse that? How are you? What are you going to steal? Like one motorcycle or two motorcycles?
I didn't write any loopholes. Or,
I didn't either. I have
plot
like
holes, not
plot
loopholes.
holes or goofs or something like that. Yeah. I don't really think there was much of anything. Yeah. Nothing that I picked up on, at least.
You know, you get the sense here that Tommy sees this as a big risk opportunity to make the biggest score of his life. Because he sees the alternative as being, if he doesn't make this risky bet of trying to leverage holding onto the munitions stolen crate, that they're going to be in the same place the rest of their life. They're going to be these low-tier, racketeering, gambling, bookmaking Peaky Blinders. It's not going to be... They're not going to be able to make the money, make the difference, elevate, right? That he would like to do. And it's here where Paulie gives him a line where she goes, you have your mother's common sense, but your father's devilment. I see them fighting. Let your mother win. That's such a good line. I don't know, but you know, my mom has common sense, and my dad, you know, is a bit of the devilment. But so
she sums up his character really well, though, with that line.
Oh, it's great. I was gonna say that she sums it up perfectly. He's both rational but also risky. You know, it's so good. The risk here is really death. That's really what's hanging over them. And he has multiple plays going on at once. He's fixing races, and he's holding on to the munitions deposit. So you got Arthur, who's feeling the pressure from Billy Kimber, and Paulie's thinking about the security of the family, the bookmaking, all that kind of stuff, because all that's going to come down too. If they get caught as the gang that stole this, then they're done for, right? Oh, yeah. So Tommy here says that he's going to do the right thing. Here I didn't understand when he says about the full moon. He says that Charlie, his uncle, won't move the contraband under a full moon.
You don't understand
I took it as there's too much light in a full moon. Same. Like it's too bright outside. But they're also like gypsies. So you also get that sense that maybe there's like some sort of like
could be some
superstitious
connotation around it or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Think it's just due to the light. Like, I mean, a full moon is going to put out a lot of light when you're not being blinded by like streetlights or something like that.
See, that's the rational thinking. You don't have anybody in your family who's ever told you something about a full moon?
I mean, we think everybody acts weird on a full moon. Stuff happens.
Is that true?
It seems like it. I mean, the other day, everybody.
I think we got to dive into
was
this
just
a little
being
bit.
nuts, and it's like, all
On
right,
a full moon?
Is it a full moon? Oh, it's a full moon. I don't know why.
Okay, so that's like an American thing.
It's like everything feels weird on a full moon. It's just odd.
There's something where they tell in some cultures, like I've heard this in my family. If you're a pregnant woman, do not go outside during a full moon.
Now that I really want to know why.
I don't know why. I never found out why, but that's like a thing. That's legitimately a thing. Oh God. Well, the next scene you have
Ada.
It's kind of typical. You got Ada rendezvousing with, of course, who would be the best person for her to rendezvous with? It's Freddie.
That pisses Tommy off the most.
The guy who gets under her brother's skin the most, Freddie Thorne. But Freddie in this scene, he's all tough talk, but he's also scared of the brothers too, because he's meeting her under a bridge. He ain't meeting her at a restaurant.
Oh no.
So she's tired of gallivanting under bridges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got a little crush on Ada Shelby.
She does say a line though that it basically is what I was thinking. I don't think he really cares about her that much, or at least I didn't when I saw this at this time. He seems like he's just using her to get to Tommy,
like to get under his skin.
Exactly.
Yeah, she says that line when they're having sex that she feels that he's only with her because he can, that kind of thing. All right, so these next two scenes that happen, you get. I've never been a big fan of this song that they play whenever. I think this is the Grace song. It's like a lullaby. I think it's literally called Grace's Lullaby. I think that's the name of it. If you look it up, if you can do a little Google investigating while I banter here, you get introduced to Grace, who sticks out like a sore thumb. She's wearing like this emerald green dress, walking through the streets here. And it's clear that's what you're supposed to feel, that she sticks out here. And she's coming in dressed as pretty as she is. Mm-hmm. And she's coming in to try to get a job as a barmaid. The bar owner is like, look, lady, you're going to get raped here. Like, this is not your location in this. This is a gang-owned bar. And he does everything to like trying to warn her and protect her, like, hey, this is not a good bar. Like, this is not the kind of place that you want to work. But the moment she sings, it all goes out the window. She literally sings, and it's like this guy's never heard actual singing before. Yeah. And she gets hired on the spot. So we get brought in the heroine. Into the show.
I can't find what it was that was playing in the background, but the lineup that they play in here, just it's probably why I like the show so much, because it's a whole bunch of people that I really like. You have obviously Nick Cave, you have the White Stripes, you have the Raconteurs, you have Arctic Monkeys, and the Raconteurs and the White Stripes, and you also have Jack White. Like I said, I mentioned those other two already, but Jack White, is in both of those two bands. Yeah. So it's a great lineup.
They use White Stripes music in the.
They use the White Stripes.
What
Jack
song
White,
did they use from the White Stripes?
And the Raconteurs.
That must have been later on. They didn't have the budget for the White Stripes in season 1. There's no way.
I think I Smell a Rat is what they play. I really want to know what the heck she's pouring out of those buckets. Like, honestly, what on earth?
Slop.
Yeah, but slop. What? From what? Like
Lysol.
People just like piss in a bucket in the middle of this.
Zach's referring to when she's throwing buckets of whatever substance on the floor to clean stuff. Yeah, I'm assuming it's just soap and water.
No, right? But she's like emptying it. It's like a spit cup that she's emptying or something, but it's massive on the. Yeah, that's what I think it is. Something like that.
Yeah. Scene 12 I have here. I think this is scene 12. You get the Inspector Campbell monologue.
Oh, yeah.
I never paid attention to this monologue until I watched it this time. Okay?
It's ridiculous.
Campbell has a little bit of Hitler-esque qualities to him, right? Because a show like this can't just introduce a cop that you would just root for,
No.
it's got to be like a cop, but he's kind of more effed up than the guys he's trying to arrest.
Yeah, he's
in
unhinged.
some ways. But at the same time, you agree with him with a lot of the stuff he's saying in this, right? He's right on everything he's saying here.
Yeah.
He's talking about, babies discarded with the fish bones and eggshells. Yeah. That line is great. Mm-hmm. That's just a top-notch line. And he's really just calling them a bunch of corrupt pieces of crap. He's calling the whole department a bunch of corrupt bastards. And he pretty much just says, like, you should all be damned for bringing dishonor to your badges and to the duty that you have as policemen.
The crazy thing, though, about this is it's so true.
Yeah, it's 100% true. 100% true, which also makes you look at yourself and you're like, why am I not rooting for this guy?
I know. That's exactly what I was thinking. Everything he says is exactly true and it's perfect. And if somebody said that, like, just out of the blue when it was something factual, like, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that you like Tommy. It's the fact that you like the Shelbys that you dislike him and what he's saying.
But not all meets the eye here, because later on in the episode, you see him have a little powwow with Churchill, and then also what they do to Arthur. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yeah, he's supposedly the good guy, but he doesn't follow the law. He does whatever the hell he has to do to get his job done.
He's the epitome of fighting fire with fire.
He is. All right, so at the end of this episode, he does like a little salute. I don't know if you noticed it. Did you notice the little salute he does at the end?
Mm-mm.
All right. When you watch it, it's very much. I'm actually going to fast forward here because the way we're doing this pod is we have a little Netflix teleparty going on, just as a little behind the scenes. Yep. We have a little watch party, and we're watching the episode as we discuss it here.
So technically, this is my third time watching it now.
But this is like such an orator's monologue. You know what I mean? This is like what is this guy doing? He's going to go into government? You can tell this guy has just as much ambition as Tommy, probably.
Yeah, I could totally see that. He has the energy. He's extremely bullheaded. He's a really strong character. I just hate him.
I will say that this episode is brought to you by Buffalo Trace. The bottle of bourbon whiskey that Zach lost in a bet and had to give me in our last series on Lupin. If you have not watched that, I will plug that right here. We did a Let's Watch series of Lupin as well, where we did a Lupin for our English speaking and me, who just feels self-conscious not saying it like the French.
I know, saying like Lupin is a little odd,
right? But it's Lupin, whatever. Yeah. You get in this scene here, going back to Peaky. By the way, Zach, you will owe me another bottle of something at the end of this.
I think you're gonna owe me the bottle on this one.
The thing is, I don't know.
These people are more like the way I was thinking. I'll trust Tommy to kill somebody.
Yeah, Zach was betting that let's not say, because if they haven't watched the show, let's not watch it. But we highly recommend Lupin on Netflix as well. Similar vibes, but less dark.
Yeah.
I will say, as we got distracted here, as I poured myself a little bit more of this great Buffalo Trace whiskey here.
Yeah.
That in this scene, you also get Campbell bringing in his own little.
Storm.
I'm gonna call them stormtroopers, because if you look at the way he walks away here, look at the screen, Zach.
Wow. All right, yeah.
Look at the screen. Look what he does with his right hand. He brings it up like a little bit like a little Hitler.
Oh, yeah.
Salute. Did you notice that?
I did. I thought it was kind of him like shooing him, like just like get away, because like he doesn't even want to see them, so it's like kind of like just blocking him out of his sight.
Yeah. Well,
that's kind of what I thought with that.
If you ever listen to Jordan Peterson lectures,
I do. All the time.
Okay, well, if you've ever heard him talk about Hitler, he'll talk about Hitler with this, that Hitler had like this disorder. Mm-hmm. He had like a disorder where he had a disgust with corruption. He had a disgust with like anything that he deemed in his own mind dirty.
Yeah.
So he had like this disgust and this disorder about it. And you kind of get that from Campbell, the way he talks about people. He has this disgust for people who break the law. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the next scene, his little goons beat the living hell out of Arthur, who's just trying to get he's trying to get a blowjob in a movie theater.
What's the crime in that? What is the crime?
He's just before the previews. You know what I mean? It's not even during the movie.
Even
he's
in
polite.
There. They have everybody out there. Nobody's allowed in there. So why not?
Exactly.
While we're about to see him get beat up, I do have to clarify: we're not actually sponsored by Buffalo Trace. Yet, at least.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. So I don't want to make it seem like you're lying, but I'm having.
My bad. I'm three glasses in Buffalo Trace, so it was just wishful speaking.
Yeah, same.
I get the vibe that they wouldn't care, but
yeah, I don't think they would. But Let's
who
save it
knows?
for when they actually do sponsor it.
You know, as Conor McGregor says, speak it into existence, my friend.
Yeah.
Speak it into existence.
Yeah, but he also will beat the crap out of you if you say anything about
Conor?
Yeah.
No, man, I'm a big fan. I bought every one of his fights. He wouldn't beat the crap out of me. He owes me money. On the last two, at least. But oh, God. All right. So Arthur's kidnapped by the police because he's deemed to be, in the little intel report, as the leader of the Peaky Blinders. And, you know, Mr. Campbell over here, Mr. Righteous, Mr. Self-Righteous over here is applying a little physical violence of his own.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, they beat him to a pulp. I even think he breaks his shoulder at one point.
No, it's his thumb or something. I thought it was like
Thumb?
just one of his normal fingers, but I think they twisted his thumb back somehow, which has to hurt a lot.
You know, in this part of the episode,
Uh-huh.
I thought Arthur was lying about not knowing about the robbery.
Yeah.
But it actually turns out later on that you find out that Arthur legitimately does not know that they're behind it because earlier in the episode, he talks to Tommy and he says, there's somebody coming in from Belfast or something like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like he suspects that Tommy's up to something.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Because later he also says, I don't know what's going on with my brother. He says, like, he's acting so weird lately. So is it because of the war? Is it because of the munitions robbery? What is it? Oh, it's his pinky that they broke.
It is, but I swear they were like bandaging his thumb or something. You know, there was a shot here where it was just a close up of Campbell's hands. He was like, just, you know, I don't know how you hold your hands in front of you sometimes. And I
where he's squeezing like that. Where did you know you caught that?
I noticed like the heartbeat like in his hand, and I'm like, why? What was the significance of that shot? And like,
I think it's because
he's angry.
I just noticed it now for the first time, and I think this is like literally my 5th time watching Peaky Blinders through. I don't know. I've watched the series 3 times through. This is my 4th time through Peaky Blinders. 3rd or 4th, I don't know anymore. But I think he's clenching his fist like that because he literally hates people who break the law.
Same.
He has
Same. But it's not just the clenching of the fist. It's the fact that you can see his heartbeat in his hand. Like he's that pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This scene is interesting to me because it's like he follows his intuition. At this point, we don't really fully know. Like, okay, what is his angle? What is he trying to get out of this? Because, you know, upon the first couple of watches of this show, you know, say what you want, but I didn't really pick up on the fact that at this point, he has no idea which group took the munitions.
Oh, no. It wasn't even the Peaky Blinders in the running. It was the IRA Fenians, I think is what they were called.
The IRA, are the IRA and the Fenians the same thing?
I think it's the IRA Fenians. I meant to look it up before this, but I didn't get a chance to.
Can you look that up? Because there was three gangs that were in the it was the communist, the IRA Fenians.
Fenian Brotherhood.
Aren't the Fenians are the communists? The IRA is different, no?
No. The IRA Fenians is one thing, and then the communists were the other thing. And so those were the two groups that I think Campbell thought stole it. The Peaky Blinders weren't even in the picture, really, other than the fact that he had their information. I think because they're like the gang that just runs this whole area where it was stolen from. I think that's why he was trying to get in with him and beat the crap out of Arthur. But he didn't know anything, so they wanted to try and like team up with him. But the IRA Fenians, when I look it up, I see the Fenian Brotherhood, which was an Irish Republic organization founded in the United States in 1858. Which don't we see that later on in the show? I feel like we see this later on in the show.
Way later.
Like the Black Hand or something.
Way later, and stop talking about it.
I'm not going to talk too much about it, but anyways, that's who he's talking about from what I can tell. So it's just basically Irish people, the Fenian, whatever that is. I need to read more about it for the next one.
At this point, he is like, that's not whack-a-mole, but he is eliminating options here. He's trying to find who's done what, right?
Yeah, but he's starting at the head. And, you know, who's in charge of
Is he starting at the head? I would say he's starting at the local level.
Well, but the thing is, they were stolen in this area. Like they didn't take it that far. So yeah, I mean, he's going at the local level where everything was happening. But there's two main groups, and I'm guessing he's hoping that they knew something about it, but Arthur didn't know anything for reasons that will become obvious in the future.
In the later episode.
Yeah.
Later in the episode. Meanwhile, back at the garrison, you have Grace seemingly in a protective bubble, because I just find it hard to believe. All right, so on previous watches, I never really fully understood that Grace would have probably been wrecked in this bar. Like,
oh, for sure.
First night walking back to her apartment. Like,
absolutely.
In this town, because the thing is, in the Inspector Campbell scene, there's literally women like they're having sex against a wall. I mean, you would assume they're prostitutes, but who knows what the law and order situation was here.
I mean, back then, and even then, they're all bought out by the Peaky Blinders, honestly. Like,
bought out by Amazon?
Everything. Not yet. Maybe now, but I don't know. I love the way that Tommy ends up talking to her. Are you a whore?
Yeah. You know, in this scene, I actually was taken aback. Do you notice that like Tommy has to scream hello across the bar?
Yeah.
I feel like it's so out of character for Tommy to have to scream for anything.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? When I watched it and I heard him say hello, I was like, that's something I'd have to do at a bar.
But it is loud. I mean, it is loud here. It's full. It wasn't full earlier on. It's full now, obviously, because she's here.
Yeah. Well, when he sees her, you can tell there's a little connection there. And obviously with her, 'cause she's making like all the kind of faces back at him as you can imagine. So he says, "Are you a whore?" What did he say?
Are you a whore? Because if you're not, you're in the wrong place.
That was that was a decent little impression there, buddy.
Thanks.
That was pretty good.
Thanks.
All right,
I'll get better. This is just the first time. You gotta have a little bit of whiskey to get the impressions right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Are you having Irish whiskey?
I am. I'm having Jameson right here.
Oh, you're truly.
I am really
in the peaky.
I've got the right whiskey here.
Okay. All right. Well, the barkeep essentially warns her, like, "Hey, look, if I say it's on the house, you don't talk to him. You just give him something." Because Tommy needed a bottle of rum for a badly beaten up Arthur, who's getting bandaged at this point by Paulie and by Ada. If you notice, like, this show has more to do with the family than it has to do with some other things, right? Like, it does have to do with Tommy's ambition and what he's trying to do. But it also has a lot to do with just family dynamics, a very, very messed up family dynamic in many ways.
That's for sure.
But nonetheless, you know, it's just family around them at that point, and close friends that they consider family, right?
Yeah.
So it's in this scene where Arthur is talking to Tommy about a robbery, and he has nothing. He literally, at this scene is where I realized, oh, he wasn't lying when he was getting beaten up. He literally didn't know.
Yeah.
And he talks about that Campbell gave him an offer. He says, "Look, just keep your ear to the ground and let us know, you know, who did this." And it's at this point where Tommy doesn't commit to that, where Arthur's kind of he's kind of slow when it comes to this kind of stuff. So he still doesn't know that Tommy is holding the munitions and hiding them.
He's not very intelligent. He's a hothead. That's why Tommy's the brains. You know, I when I first saw, or when I saw the part of him getting beat up, I thought I was like, all right, well, he's a pretty strong character, right? You know, and then we get to this scene, and I'm like, oh, he's not strong at all. He didn't even actually know. They're keeping it from him.
Well, I think he's still a strong character. It's just
the character is. Yeah, I agree. That's not what I meant. I just meant like strong-willed.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
He legitimately didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, I get what you're saying. Like, you mean like he held out from telling the truth. It was more
I thought he was like, you know, withstanding the torture, but he legitimately had no idea.
Which kind of proves, you know, Tommy's point of not telling anybody, because it's like, I'm protecting my family by not telling them, because if they literally don't know, then you can torture them and rip off their you know, their freaking toenails if you want to.
Oh yeah, I know.
They can't say something that they don't know.
Exactly. Well, it's a good strategy, but the fact that he's the supposed leader of this group and he didn't know. Yeah. It's being kept from him, and with the line of, "I think so, you don't have to." He's just. It gives me the feeling he's not a bright character.
you know, we go back to the garrison after the scene with Arthur being attended to, and you have Grace singing to a bar that's singing along with her, and the bar goes quiet when Tommy and the gang roll in, and Tommy makes a comment. It's almost like if you've ever been to a funeral. I don't know if you've ever been to a funeral.
Yes, I've been to many funerals.
No, not literally. Oh God, many. I'm sorry.
Enough to know what they're like.
I wasn't asking like literally like that, but if you've ever been to a funeral of somebody that you love for real, not somebody that you didn't really know, but somebody that you love, and you start to listen to the conversations of the people that are at the funeral, and you typically have none of the conversations have anything to do with the person that's in the casket. You know, I have been at funerals where I am pissed. Like I'm literally legitimately like pissed. I'm like, why are you even here?
Yeah.
What are you doing not talking about at least stories of the person that's here? Everything is about like your job or whatever, you know, BS. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's one of those feelings where Tommy goes, where the bar keeps kind of coming up to him and kissing his butt and saying, there hasn't been any singing since the war, Tom. And he says, why do you think that is? It's like Tommy does have some sort of honor to him where it's like there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of men, maybe millions. I don't know how many men died in World War One. I'm assuming millions.
Yeah.
Who died for this cause. That's why we're not singing out of respect for them.
Yeah.
And you have that here. You got that kind of sense here where this is not a normal. This is not business as usual, right?
No, I mean again.
What were your thoughts on like that whole situation there?
The bar scene.
Yeah, the bar scene in general with Grace singing and the whole bar singing with her.
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the whole scene, but in the context of how you're spinning it, it totally makes sense.
Spinster, you're calling me? You're calling me a Shelby spinster?
I guess. Am I?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, Tommy has a wrong read on the room. I think you also see that these are people who need some sort of joy. You know, that's why they're singing.
Well,
singing along.
I definitely think it was needed, that's for sure. But at the same time, like I get where he's coming from. He was there. I'm sure a lot of these people weren't.
Yeah. All right. Next scene, you got Freddie Thorne, aka Marshall Mathers. Doesn't he look like Eminem?
Looks nothing. All right. If he had his head shaved, he does look a bit like Eminem.
He looks just like Eminem.
And he needs to be a little bit more pale, but yes.
Yeah. And the mannequins. All right. You got Ada and Freddie having sex, and immediately after, Freddie wants to talk about her brother. What did he ask her about the brother?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Did Tommy mention anything?
I don't think it was important. Let's see.
Yeah, he asked her something about. It was Arthur. Yeah, he wants to know about the munitions deal. He's obviously concerned because his name was on the list.
Yeah.
With the
I would be too.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, what the heck? It's tough enough being a communist in early 1900s Britain. I can imagine, you know, being one with your name on a
hit list,
on a list.
Basically. It's crazy how dirty this place is. Just
although remaining
inside.
a communist even after World War One, you got to be a diehard communist, right?
Oh,
that was around the Bolshevik Revolution, right?
Yeah.
In World War One. I don't know what year the Bolshevik Revolution was. I mean, can you do a quick?
Yeah, I'm the Googler on these.
The Googler on the pod. I'll talk about what's going on here next in that scene.
1917.
Okay, so a year before the war ended, there was the Bolshevik Revolution.
Yeah.
So, and if you've ever heard about that, then it's a great example of communism not working. So,
well, actually, the Russian Revolution it started in 1917. It ended in 1923.
Yeah, but in 1917 is when they started rooting out all the royals of Russia. If you ever watched Downton Abbey, there's a character in there who's a supposed socialist.
Kayla and I are going to watch it. Her parents have watched it. We haven't watched it yet.
I love Downton Abbey. It's a good show. It's a nice palate cleanser.
All right.
It's a historical palate cleanser.
We'll fit it in somewhere.
Speaking of palate cleansers, brown opium.
Whiskey.
Brown opium in a clay pipe. Tommy's hitting it because he needs to escape the bad dreams.
which are some pretty crazy dreams.
Some nasty dreams. I'm not gonna lie. Like, seems like he's in some sort of
he's a sewer rat
cave. What does that mean?
Back in the day, you're a sewer rat. You would run through these underground tunnels with bayonets.
He was a tunneler. He was a tunneler in World War One. You imagine being a tunneler and the tunnel caves in on you?
Dude, that would be so terrifying. That reminds me of the 1917?
Yeah, when the room collapses on him with the rats.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah. There's in 1917, if you guys have never watched the movie, there's a scene where
tunnel rats.
It's rats. What it is that there's rats in the room, and the Germans had pretty much tripwired the room because it was a tunnel that went through, right? And so what they did was they left these wires hanging, and it was a rat, I think, that tripped the wire and caused the whole room to pretty much blow up.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I digress.
The term tunnel rat was actually a term, though, meant for, people who were going through those tunnels for like search and destroy missions. So they were actually called tunnel rats, at least from what I could find.
Reminds me of a book I read once about this.
What
this
book?
Old? I don't remember the name of it. It's on my shelf somewhere. It was this old thief that used to use the sewers to rob people.
Oh, I see.
It was like his escape route.
Question for you. Is Danny... I think it's okay to say this. Nobody else is going to know what it is until they see the episode anyways. But is Danny the sniper?
No, he's not.
Okay.
He's not. I had the same thought too. He's not.
Because that, like, the moment I saw this, I'm like, that's exactly what I thought it was.
He's not. He's not. So in this scene where Zach is talking about that, he had this thought process here with the spoiler that those of you who have not watched the show will never find out. Danny Whizbang kills a man who was overly aggressive. Can we be fair? Like, Danny was there having an episode for 2 seconds, and this guy took out a knife. Like, he kind of had it coming.
Yeah, but at the same
crazy
time,
man. Unless it happens every day, where Danny comes by at 3 o'clock.
Well, I don't. If Danny came by that often, I don't think he would have pulled that out. I don't know.
Right?
Because then
afraid
of the big ball.
Because then he's harmless. Exactly. Yeah, but he can't. If you watch that scene, he like comes out of the restaurant. And then it happens. Hey, crazy man, leave. It's,
Yeah.
That was literally his accent, bro. Awful Italian accent.
Exactly. Terrible.
I'm out. If he's actually Italian and I'm the one who's making fun of him, then is what it is. But I always found his lines kind of ridiculous. Like, leave. Be gone. It's like so ridiculous. All right. This is dope. I love when shows do what the next scene does, where you got Winston Churchill making a little cut here. Questionable casting.
Okay, I literally wrote that. I love the casting in the show. I absolutely hate the casting of Winston Churchill. I think is Winston Churchill worst casting I've ever seen.
Remember, this is Winston Churchill before World War II. So yeah, I don't know what he looked like. I don't know what he looked like in 1919. I don't know.
His mannerisms don't line up with how.
I agree. Overall, don't know who this guy is. Did a decent job. Not a fan of the casting. Maybe I'm a fan of him, but they didn't dress him up enough to look like Churchill.
Nah.
Maybe Churchill had hair back in 1919.
But it's not even the hair. It's the way that he speaks, the way that he thinks. Like
the way he thinks. You know him at a personal.
Well, I don't know him that personally.
Churchill was kind of like Churchill kind of had like this. He was ruthless, and in a sense, it was like, what you don't know won't hurt you type of thing, right? Where he says, look, because he's warning Campbell. He says, look, we hired you because we know you're ruthless and you get the job done. However, this is not Belfast. Bodies that you throw in the river wash up on the shore here and they end up on the news. So if you're going to kill people, you make sure you bury those bodies deep.
Oh, yeah. So
he's saying, like, look, I am above the law. But the law, the ends justify the means, right? That's the saying. And that is Churchill largely historically. I think that is kind of his approach to most things. And by the way, I don't think that's wrong necessarily.
No.
Am I in the wrong for saying that?
I mean, regardless of whether you think you're wrong or not,
I think the people I think the people who say that he's wrong in doing that are the people who have never been in control of anything. Like, have never managed anything.
You keep
they're losers
from people sometimes because they don't know how to react to them. They don't know how to respond or process.
You got to take a utilitarian response.
It is.
Look,
what it is.
when you're the leader of a country, you cannot have people in fear.
No.
Of course, that's why like when people were talking about like last year when they were saying Trump lied about the virus. Trump lied about the virus. I'm gonna get political. Trump lied about the virus. Like, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to like cry and scream about it and act like it's the worst thing in the world? What is that going to solve? It's already here.
Exactly.
What are we going to do? So what are you going to say? As the leader of the free world, you need to make sure your people are calm and that there's a sense of confidence. That's why I didn't understand all that criticism, to be honest.
Hysteria would have caused much more of a problem. That's for sure.
What's better, that or we have a dark winter ahead of us? We have a dark winter ahead of us and winter is coming. Like, is that better? Does that make you feel better?
Not quite.
Put on your double masks.
Yeah, right.
One is not good enough. All right. Okay, I digress. We go to Uncle Charlie, who's one of my favorite characters in the show, who's never shown on the show that much.
Not really. Not much.
Everyone's got a cool uncle. Do you got a cool uncle?
I do, I think.
Everyone's got like one.
I have some.
Just
whether
like
whether or not they're
uncle
still alive, I don't know.
Yeah. What? Anyways, he has a heart-to-heart with Tommy here. I think Uncle Charlie's kind of the closest thing Tommy has to a father figure. And here they're discussing. Charlie's in one page. He's saying, look, Tom, I'm going to do what you want me to do. But this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to do with this munitions, keeping the munitions. But Tommy he's made his choice. Like, you got to respect Tom here. He's going with his guns. He's going like a desperado.
Mm-hmm.
Making his choice here and sticking to it.
Yep.
And he flexes on him too. He says, by order of the Peaky Blinders. This is not Tommy speaking to you. This is by order of the Peaky Blinders. You move those effing guns to where I told you to move them to. So this is it's a good scene.
It is.
Yeah. Your blood, Tommy. Yeah. He even talks about it. I've always looked out for you like a dad. You know? At first, when you're first introduced to Uncle Charlie, it does feel like a father-son relationship.
Yeah.
In lots of ways.
It really does.
But here you also see where he's calling Tommy out on his crap. He's saying, look, I think you're trying to find, I think you're trying to make another war here now that you're not in the war.
Yeah.
But also Tommy has taken exception. To me, he's justifying his actions of hiding the munitions because he found out that Campbell didn't serve in the war. And so he's saying, he didn't serve. And he's just thinking like the audacity of not serving. When I served and people died.
Yeah.
People died for this. And you're going to come in here. You're going to try to govern law for a country that you weren't willing to fight for. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I get that. How are you going to come and tell me what to do for this country when you weren't willing to go and die for this country?
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfectly justifiable reasoning and makes you hate Campbell more.
It does. I hate him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Campbell. Not everybody hates Campbell because in the next scene you see that he rendezvous with Grace, who apparently is not just a barmaid, not just an innocent barmaid coming to the worst part of town to go get a job. She's actually a double agent, and she is a barmaid by day and night, and a double agent for Inspector Campbell for every single hour.
Yeah,
it's in this conversation with Campbell that she tells him, look, I don't think Arthur is the leader. I think Tommy's probably the leader. Mm-hmm. But she also does not think that the Peaky Blinders have the guns, and she believes it's the IRA. But for a reason that we find out is kind of personal for her, because we find out that the IRA murdered her father.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why she's working with Campbell, who used to be an associate of her father's, who he calls the most honorable or the best officer he'd ever worked with, the greatest man he'd ever worked with.
Yeah.
But you get some vibes from Campbell here where it's not just professional.
No.
It's kind of got the hots for Grace.
You do get that feeling from this.
Yeah.
I will say, though, when they introduced Grace into this, I wasn't surprised at all that she was working with Campbell. Like, it just...
No, neither was I. Neither was I.
She just seemed really forced into that
Why introduce her? Is what
location.
you're saying.
Well, not even why I introduced her. Why would she, coming where she came from, go here out of all places to work as a barmaid? Like, it's a little suspicious.
Yeah. I don't think it was probably all that common back then to have a barmaid be a double agent, especially like a female barmaid. I mean, I guess all barmaids are female, but whatever.
Oh, this scene is great.
Yeah. All right. So to set up this next scene, as the gang leader, Tommy does have to make some difficult choices here. And Danny Whizbang did kill an innocent man who happened to be the brother of 2 Italian gang members in a different part of town.
Yeah.
So Tommy has to make a call here, and he has to kill Danny Whizbang. This scene for me, as a first-time watcher, is one of those make or break scenes.
Yeah.
Is Tommy the type of guy who will kill a friend for a mistake, for something that he did not mean to do? Turns out in this scene that he is the kind of guy who'd kill a friend that, would do something. But you find out later after this execution of Danny Whizbang, which I love this back and forth between Danny Whizbang because he talks about his sons and he says, please take care of my wife, take care of my kids. Don't let them get told to do the stuff that we had to do.
Yeah.
Because you kind of see like these guys used to be, these guys used to be good friends before the war, and after the war they're different men, right?
Yeah.
And he's asking Tom to take care of him.
Don't bury him in the mud. He's terrified of it.
He's terrified of the mud. They were tunnelers, so there's something deeper there that they haven't gotten to yet on the show. Anyways, Tommy puts a bullet in the back of his head, and he actually makes the first utterance of a phrase here that becomes a key phrase throughout the rest of the show. You find out also that Tommy was a superior officer to Danny. And it just kind of like proves that he is a leader. He's a leader among men.
Yeah.
And he says a phrase here that's called "in the bleak midwinter," and I'll get into that in a second here.
Was that the phrase, "in the bleak midwinter"?
He says "in the bleak midwinter." He mutters that before he shoots him in the back of the head.
I forgot what the phrase was.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back to that in a second. But you have in the next scene, Arthur comes in and he pretty much, Tommy has all these things going on, right? This is what makes conflict amazing in these shows, right? You got the munition stuff going on. You also forgot that Tommy did that powder trick for the horse in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
And Arthur confronts him about it here. He says, "Look, the damn horse won." Right? So now you fixed the race without permission from the kingpin of the races. And then it's here finally where Tommy is a good brother and finally tells him the plan. He says, "Look, the horse won. The horse is going to win again. And then on the third time, when everybody in London and everybody in Birmingham is betting on this horse, the horse will lose."
Yep.
And then Arthur just shuts up at that point. He's like, "All right, that's a brilliant plan."
Yeah.
He gives that look. It's right there. He gives the look right there. And it's just like, I got nothing to say. That's brilliant.
Just like, oh shit.
And he also, at this point, Arthur kind of realizes he's been surpassed.
Yeah.
Right? You look at him. He kind of has this frustrated look like this is it. And he takes to the bottle immediately.
Of course.
Right? All right. So here, you're vindicated here because Tommy is not a scumbag who kills his friends. You get the next scene where Danny Whizbang resurrects from the dead. And you find out that Tommy didn't actually kill him, but he actually shot him in the back of the head with a
sheep brains.
A bullet full of sheep brains. That's got to feel good.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a solid that Tommy did for him, because it was one of those things where what would knock more sense into you other than thinking you're dead? Imagine you wake up after getting a bullet to the back of the head.
Yeah, right.
Your life's going to be completely different after that happens.
For sure.
Especially if it's a fake one. You literally thought you're dead. You wake up and you're in a tunnel. You think you're probably in heaven or hell.
You go into hell the way that this scene looks.
Yeah, I love that line where he goes, "You sure this is not heaven?" And Charlie's like, "What would I be doing here?" Exactly. If this was heaven. So, this is just a great little scene here. Also really dope, like the tunnel system here in London. Yeah. I gotta go back here to the bleak midwinter line that Tommy says right before he shoots Danny Whizbang. So in the bleak midwinter, it's a poem written by this English poet named Christina Rossetti. It was a Christmas carol, It was published under the title A Christmas Carol in the January 1872 issue of Scribner's Monthly. The poem is usually sung by church choirs set to the music of the English hymnal by Gustav Holst. I get this from express.co.uk. The poem refers to the birth of Christ in the presence of God. The opening verse reads, "In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made a moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow, in the bleak midwinter long ago." The entire song is featured pretty much throughout the show, and it's mentioned several times. And the Peaky Blinders, several of the characters use this phrase, and you don't know what is the context of why they're using it. But they usually say this phrase in moments where right before they narrowly escape death. I know that is kind of a spoiler, so sorry. I probably should have said spoiler alert, but it's the Shelby brothers made a pact when they were at war, and they said because they narrowly escaped death during the First World War, they consider that the life they live now is a blessing. So pretty much when they say in the bleak midwinter, it's an acknowledgement of the time we have right now anyways is borrowed. We should have been dead along our fellow comrades in the war, right? So I just found that this was the first utterance of them saying that. Tommy here, you have in the next scene where Paulie's asking him if he did the right thing. She knows he didn't,
of course,
in my opinion.
Of course.
But he doesn't technically lie to her either. He says, yeah, I did do the right thing. Because in his mind, the right thing is to take the chance here with the munitions deposit.
Yep.
And I love the end of this episode. You get Tommy exchanging a glance with Grace. They got the hots. They got the hots for each other. And Tommy's walking into the snow in the bleak midwinter. Right? Right? And he's walking alone, smoking a cigarette, hat cast down, shadow over the eyes.
Yeah.
It's, man, to be an anti-hero in this show is the dopest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's larger than life. He probably goes back to regular life.
Misses
and
it.
he's like, damn. How does Tommy do it?
I'm a sucker for a good suit. So the suits in this show is great.
I think when we get to season 6, but then again, it's more of a commitment for me. I got long hair right now.
You got long hair.
We both got to do the haircuts.
Oh, you want to do the shave? Mine's kind of like it. I mean, it's.
Oh, you got kind of long hair right now too.
It's long on the top. But
you do have the peaky cut right now.
I don't have it because of the peaky, but I do have it.
Yeah, no, not me. I am completely long hair at the moment. But that's the end of episode 1, ladies and gents. That was a long episode. They're all just as long as this. The recaps take as long, and we don't want to spare details on this. But man, the pilot's killer. At least it hooks me in.
It was really good. It's one of the best pilots that I've seen recently. Yeah,
recently I saw this thing like. When did it come out? When did Peaky Blinders come out?
I'm talking about like in the modern shows that we've seen. It was. I mean, it had to come out like 5 years ago. So what? 2015.
Yeah, we got to get into that at some point. Like, what is the pantheon of the all-time great pilots?
Oh man, I mean,
because
I've got pilot in Mad Men. It was just so great. I don't know what it was about the cinematography, the way they ended that. I'm not going to get into it until we actually have ours. But so far, this is.
Are you saying we're going to do a Mad Men watch through?
I don't know. I mean, I think we should.
Yeah, we got to do it.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to have to do that at some point.
I feel like we got to do that live.
Well,
like we got to have like a little.
What do you mean?
No, but we got to do like a studio
like
space where we're actually watching it.
Totally down.
And not like doing notes. Like we're literally just. Maybe we should do some prepared notes.
But
we can like watch it live, have some old fashions and shit.
We've seen it like 5 times.
No, I have not. I've never rewatched Mad Men.
You haven't rewatched it?
I mean, I've rewatched some things, of course, but I haven't done a solid rewatch of the whole series.
I'm like on my 4th time
Rewatching Mad Men's way different than rewatching Peaky for me. Peaky is less Mad Men's all dialogue.
It's like all dialogue. You gotta sit down and focus on it.
Yeah, you can't. The thing is with Mad Men, like I can't imagine how much subtext you pick up because Mad Men,
dude,
Matthew Weiner is a master of subtext.
So
specifically, the scene that pops out to me with subtext is remember when the guy pisses his pants like in season 2?
Freddie Rumsen. Yeah.
Freddie Rumsen pisses his pants and they have to fire him because he pisses his pants in the middle of a meeting. I think.
Oh, before.
Before. Yeah, because he's an alcoholic, so he has an issue with like holding his bladder or whatever. I don't know. And the whole scene that they take him out is all subtext. Everything. Them firing him is all subtext. It's not ever, the line is never said, we got to let you go, Freddy. Yeah. It's never uttered. It's all subtext. It's brilliant. The writing on that show is freaking insane.
It is. It's ridiculous.
Goals.
All of that to say, so far, this is my favorite. I think, we're going to have many good drinks as we watch this and record this. But
I don't know if I'm going to have enough Buffalo Trace here. What kind of bet can we make in season 1?
I don't know, because we know everything. Like, what are we going to do?
I don't know. What can we wager in season 1?
We know everything. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
All right.
I think what we're just going to have to do is we're just going to have to get some period alcohol for these shows. Just something that,
Irish whiskey. I get it. Yeah.
Get the Irish whiskey. Later on when Tommy does his other thing, we'll get the gin.
Don't say any other.
I will bleep it out,
You'll bleep it out. If I'm editing this, I'm not going to bleep out anything.
I didn't give anything away. Come on.
All right.
Regardless. He likes some gin. I mean, that's enough. So we'll get some gin then. But what was I getting at?
All right,
yeah, Mad Men's gonna be great anyways.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about Mad Men yet because we just started the Peaky Blinders.
I know. We just started this. We gotta stay focused.
We're gonna have episode 2 coming next Tuesday. We're gonna record that. I guess we should. We'll stay chronological as much as we can with this. Try to knock out 2 episodes a week. Yeah. On good weeks, maybe we can do more.
Maybe like 3.
And get through the whole first season. But I'm looking forward to doing this. It's always a pleasure to rewatch Peaky Blinders. I freaking love this show.
It is great. I've been wanting to rewatch it, but I've been holding off specifically for this.
Yeah, same. So. I mean, I knew this was one of the shows that we'd end up doing in Story Archives. Like, this just has to be a show. It's like probably I think it's my current favorite show. How about you? Like, what show are you looking more forward to for another season?
I don't have one, honestly.
Yeah, see,
I just don't like it. It's such a great piece.
Like, I'll tell you now, I'm on.
It's great.
I'm on Ted Lasso. I'm on.
I haven't started watching that.
The Foundation on Apple TV.
That terrific. We have to watch. Yeah,
terrific.
I saw the trailer for it. It looks great.
Yeah, that's a terrific show. And yeah, that's about it for me. I'm watching Sopranos for the first time right now. I'm on season 3.
Yeah, okay. That's the first time. Really?
It's the first time I've ever watched Sopranos, yeah. Oh. Have you watched Sopranos?
No, I thought you watched. What is it that you watched? I thought you watched The Sopranos because I told you about that app.
No,
that
maybe
I
Boardwalk Empire.
That I will not mention the name of.
But all of that, I would like to know who the actor was now on the product you were working on or the event you were working on for Sopranos. But let's not deviate too much because the listeners didn't come here for Sopranos.
I don't want to deviate, but
let's.
Before we do wrap it though, we have a few questions that we have to answer.
All right, you hit me with the questions because the show notes were very detailed.
They were very detailed. I took mine, but you just kept taking the words out of my mouth. So, best scene. What do you think the best scene was? I have mine, and I'll tell you after you tell me yours.
Best scene for me. This is tough because I didn't think of things in categories for the first episode, but I will do that. I
struggled to do that for this one, honestly.
I think the best scene has to go to... There's 2 scenes in my mind. The opening, where he's on the horse. I think that establishes Tommy as a character. It establishes pretty much everything. And I love the scene between him and Paulie in the church.
Yeah.
What about you?
So my favorite scene was the chief inspector's speech.
Wow.
It just sums everything up, right? I had to do something different, yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Why? Why the inspector's speech?
It was extremely strong, but he sums everything up. Like he explains everything to you in that one speech. The scummy police officers, the Peaky Blinders. You get the sense of his ruthlessness. Like you just get all of that within that one scene. I don't know. I thought it was great. Really good speech, written really well.
I will say I never appreciated that speech until I watched it for the 4th effing time. Like, I listened to it this time. I was like, this is a masterful speech, especially when he comes in and with is he Irish? Where's Belfast?
I don't even know.
Look it up, please. You're like the
Where's
Googler
Belfast?
here.
All right, come on.
When he says Belfast is Ireland, right?
Belfast.
Ireland. It's Ireland. It's Ireland.
It is Ireland. Yep, that's right.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Google's having a
I
secret.
should have just trusted my instinct, but
Yeah.
I love that line where he opens it up and he goes, what does he say? The thing about the babies. He goes, the baby's thrown out with the fish bones and the
egg shells,
that-
whatever.
Oh, that's a good line.
Yeah.
Like it literally, his hands. He can't even look at the men behind him.
No.
Such a good line, and he puts himself up on a pedestal as well.
Oh yeah. It was
great.
It was
All right.
phenomenal.
Any other categories, questions we got to answer
Yes. Yes.
here? Let's hit me.
I think this one's gonna be very, very easy for the first one. At least I think our answers will be pretty similar. But most memorable character or characters?
The problem is on this show, it's not like Lupin.
No.
Actually, it kind of is because Lupin technically is the one you want to see on screen at all times.
Yeah.
Tommy's always the most valuable character, always the most important character.
That's
Tommy's
why I'm opening this up to more than one.
This show. Okay, if we're gonna do more than one, we can always say second place because Tommy's always gonna be first place in this show. Because this show is about Tommy. This is a character
is.
study on Tommy
It
for the
really
most part.
is.
It's a historical character study on Tommy, and I stand by that. It's hard to not say Inspector Campbell.
That's my second. I mean, my first is Tommy Shelby. I'm like, I wrote down, you love him. He's a strong character. He's broken.
You love him.
It's great.
Yeah.
And then
Broken.
the Chief Inspector,
Already.
Campbell, you hate him. He's also a really strong character, but he's ruthless. And that's the feeling that I got from him. So those are my top two.
Campbell comes in as a worthy adversary. And I would say in third place is a tie between Arthur and you know what? I would have to say Freddy is strong in this episode too on rewatch.
Yeah. I like Polly.
Knowing
more,
what
though.
I know about Freddy.
I like Polly more though. I mean, she's not featured
course,
that
who the
much
hell
in this
doesn't?
episode. But again, it's a really great and strong introduction.
Polly
And
to
you
me
just
is the
get the
third
sense of her
place,
character,
but
yeah.
but Freddy, you know what it is? We'll have to talk about Freddy later. Freddy might get his own whole like mini episode.
Yeah. The bonus episode.
Bonus episode. Freddy Thorne.
We're gonna have to
Two
do that.
viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody gives a crap about Freddy.
No,
for
but
the
we'll
most
do
part.
a psychological breakdown of like every character or something at some point, and it'll be a bonus episode. I don't know.
We should bring on like an actual behavior psychologist or psychiatrist, whatever the terminology is.
I used to study
to-
psychology, so
Yeah. Well, you can do it. I'll pepper you with questions,
you do it.
and I'll ask you like, okay, what is the archetype here of Tommy Shelby? We'll do it. All right, we'll get Cillian Murphy on the show.
There you go. He's
All
not
right,
on
so
social
ladies
media,
and
so I have
gents.
to mail him.
No, he's not. He doesn't give a crap about the world, bro.
I listen. I like him. I like him even more for that.
Yeah, same. Even though I have social media, but all right, ladies and gents, this was episode 1 of season 1 of Peaky Blinders. We got 5 more seasons to go. If you like Peaky, if you're a degenerate Peaky Blinder like me and Zach,
Yeah.
all right, just crime rationalizing only on television type of degenerates. Join us with a glass of your favorite drink, even if it's water, and
Come on.
tune in. Zach, plug us with the outro. I'm terrible at the outro plugs.
It has been a moment, so let me think about this. You can
Jesus.
find our website at storyarchives.themidnightexchange.com. We're on Instagram at Story Archives, if I remember correctly. I think we're on Twitter as
Just
well,
Story Archives.
right? Or is it just Instagram?
No, just Instagram.
Just Instagram. All right, so follow us on Instagram at Story Archives. But our website kind of ties us into the podcast network that we have, the Midnight Exchange. So you can go ahead and look up the midnightexchange.com. We have a podcast over there. It's just as everything that we're working on right now is kind of branched out through there, but you can find them online at the midnightexchange.com, on Instagram at the Midnight Exchange, on Facebook at the Midnight Exchange, and on Twitter at THEME podcast. And if
look,
you want to send us an email, it's podcast
Yeah,
at
please.
themidnightexchange.com. So go ahead and do that.
Podcast at the midnightexchange.com. Yeah, whoever's listening to this, we're very open. We're a very young podcast, so if you're listening to us, you are one of our first
Ground
little
zero.
listeners here. Ground zero, just being completely humble and truthful about it. So if you don't like the way that we format our episodes and you have suggestions, if you ever even want to be a guest on the show,
that could be really fun, actually.
We are open to it. We're open to suggestions. We're open to advice that you would like to share about your experience listening to the show as we grow to give you a better listening experience and viewing experience. Pardon my messy background. I gotta also, like, Zach has this beautifully tailored background because he has a wife.
It's true.
His wife does all that for him.
True.
I knew him before he had a wife. It was a mess back there. Like, it was just a blank wall like me. Just literally bachelor room, nothing on the wall. Just, that's it. So I got a mess behind me. But either way, for your viewing experience, pleasure experience. It's the Buffalo Trace speaking at this point.
Yeah,
thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on episode 2. I'm very excited for episode 2.
Me too.
I'm very excited to do this entire thing.
Rewatching this, I'm freaking like hyped.
It's gonna be tough to pace myself because I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch all the episodes before Tuesday of next week. I want to watch the episode on Monday, be fresh
right
with it,
before we
record. And then record.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of got annoyed at myself when I had to stop this, but thankfully I had to go straight to work so I could stop.
Yeah. Yeah. So thankfully I got Tony Soprano to keep me occupied here. So also amazing character. I didn't think I was going to like Sopranos this much. I love it. I'm talking like an Italian. Gabagool.
Wasn't The Sopranos written by Matthew Weiner as well?
No.
No?
No.
Mad Men.
You might be right.
I swear it was him.
It wasn't, the show was not written by him, but he might have worked on it.
I think at the very least.
Oh, shh.
Did I just come with a fact here?
He is credited with writing or co-writing 7 episodes of the first season, 11 episodes of the second, 12 episodes of the third.
There you go.
Oh my God.
That's right. That's right.
No wonder it's so well written.
I haven't even seen it, but I know I'd like it, so I'll have to watch it. Yeah, I just blew your mind.
No wonder. Finally. I got to call my dad right now before he goes to sleep to tell him this because he will watch Mad Men tonight. All right. That's all, ladies and gents. Have a good night. Thank you. God bless you.
Peace.